What's up, y'all? This is DJ Busby.
And it's your boy JKD.
And yeah, you see the title.
Womp, womp, womp.
It's not exactly what you think, but it's what you think.
Yeah.
Okay, this podcast is now coming to an end. So we're going to spend the duration of the podcast explaining why, explaining where it's going, and what we need your help for.
Right.
Sounds good, people?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, podcast coming to an end. The reason is because I guess I had an idea.
Right.
Not every idea is going to be the tsunami or
Right.
the BIMFest or
Right,
whatever
right.
the case is.
Right.
And sometimes you just simply need to readjust in order to grow.
Yeah.
And I actually had a phone conversation the other day with a social media marketing expert.
Right.
Like, this is his profession. And I was actually talking to him about other stuff. So this wasn't even primary on the list.
Okay.
And I brought up the People's Podcast. And he asked me, well, what's the name of the podcast again? So I said, the People's Podcast. And then I had to explain it to him. I'm like, the PPLS Podcast.
Right.
When he typed it in, he said, yo, I'm not seeing it. I said, what? So in my head, I'm thinking, all right, when we get to 100 plus people, we'll go up in the algorithm. Anybody else that I searched for that was titled the PPLS Podcast or the People's Podcast didn't really have many viewers. So I figured we go up in ranking as we grow the show.
Yeah.
But without me explaining all that, he said, you might want to think about changing your name of the podcast for searchability reasons.
Yeah.
And he's like, even just saying it, the People's Podcast, people's first instinct is going to be to type out people.
Right. Yeah.
So that was very annoying because, you know, although we've created great content in these 30 episodes, this is episode 30 of that. It's something that's just got to be adjusted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's 30 episodes deep. What do you think about that? The fact that we're done with that name.
I mean, because we have a greater sense of where we want to take this, and again, we want to be, you know, that top tier kind of podcast, you know, especially in this scene, in this country and worldwide. Change has to be made. I know we probably put a lot of effort into 30 episodes and whatnot, but we have a greater goal in mind, and things have to be done. So
Facts. Big facts. And on top of that, you know, it led us to, you know, I invested a lot of money into the equipment of the show, but those aren't tied to the name.
Right.
So that's
exactly.
a positive.
Right.
The little like nuisances of getting a new logo and paying for that all over
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Then what happens to that logo,
Yeah.
which, you know, was pretty clever and it was pretty good.
Right.
It sucks that you kind of just have to throw that away
Right.
and start fresh. You know, it's new expenses now that are on the plate, but these are things like growing pains, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So the reason we're even doing a podcast like this is because we realize that a lot of you have become hardcore fans of it.
Right.
A lot of you guys, when I upload it to Premiere Live on YouTube or whatever the case is, a lot of you are there sitting there watching it from 9 a.m. on a Monday. And will message us right after you've watched, whenever you've watched it, saying, yo, I love the show. Those people that have commented, all of that good stuff.
Right.
And we truly appreciate that. So the reason we're doing this is to reach out to the listeners, to you guys. And if you had any sort of emotional attachment to the name of this podcast, which was this podcast is coming to an end, you're probably going to want to, you know, take part in the changes that are being made.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to hearing your side of things. So when it comes to the listeners, what do you think, like, we should ask them? What type of things?
Just, I guess, the generic stuff, obviously, first, you know, like, what did you like about the podcast? Was there anything that you could change or add to it? Even, you know, get a couple advice with about the name, or what name we should call it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Things like that, I guess.
Absolutely. Which leads me into getting into contact with you guys. So, you know, we're obviously, I don't want to put a time constraint on it because good things take time.
Right.
But ideally, I'd want the new fresh podcast, the new look, the new name, all the platforms to be ready by the new year.
Right.
Which gives us 2 months. And I don't really want to just leave you guys hanging
Right. Exactly.
without any episodes for 2 months,
Right.
and just leave this, to the wayside. Even though there's so much content you guys could go back and listen to that is valuable content.
Right.
I want to get in touch with you guys. So the best way, I guess, to do so would be to contact us directly.
Yes. Yeah.
So where can they get a hold of you if they want to link you?
If they want to get me, Instagram would probably be the best. JKD the DJ on Instagram, or they can even call me 647-525-9551.
Giving out his phone number.
My number is all around, bro. It's my business line.
That's your business line?
Yeah. It's a prayer line. It's the prayer line. It's everything.
Be careful what kind of prayers y'all are calling up the hotline with, please. Thank you. Don't clog up God's hotline, because he don't need to be dealing with that. There's a lot going on in this world. All right, I guess similar with me, at DJ_BUZZB.
Right.
Phone number is 416-845-5433. Facts, my number is all over.
Exactly. So,
but I do want to keep, because who has a 416 number these days? And typically anybody with a 647 and especially a 437, you done something wrong that you needed to upgrade, or you're a youth. But if you have an authentic 416 number, you're a good youth. I'm just saying. No lie, I lie.
It's facts.
You probably have to change your number because of stupidness, and now you have to have a 647 or a 437, but still have 416. So I want to keep that as my personal number and eventually change to my business line.
Yeah. I mean, they could still hit us up on the People's Podcast Instagram.
Yeah, facts.
We still have it up, so they can hit us up on that as well. So
but that's the thing. Like, once we make this change, this is going to be like a attention to detail project.
Exactly.
Especially for me, because what you're seeing behind here is not cheap.
Right.
Y'all time is not cheap.
Right.
And I don't want it to go in vain. And I feel like we have something special. It's just a matter of doing it the right way.
Absolutely.
And in our community, especially, we're first at bat.
Yeah.
Who else is really doing this at our level? No. Even if they don't have the numbers that we have,
right.
Nobody's doing it at our level.
Facts.
Our quality is the best.
Right.
And I don't even say that in vain. Like, there's not much to compare it to. So, like,
True.
we definitely are, I would say, the best in our lane at what we're doing. But
right.
I see value in what we're doing, and I would like your guys' help, who's listening. Chime in with your input. Give us what you liked, as JKD said, what you liked about the show. Literally, if it's so much as, I love how you guys joke around, or I love how you guys give your serious input. As detailed and specific as you could be would be appreciated, because we could zone in on those things.
Right.
And especially if it's redundant by a bunch of people.
Exactly.
It makes sense for us to adhere to that and say, in any project, the best thing to do is get a focus group or a specific amount of people that you could focus your attention on, cater to them, and let them help you grow. Yeah. That's just marketing 101.
Right.
And that's what we want. As JKD said, the name, I've thought about 30 different names just throughout these past couple weeks since I had that meeting.
Yeah.
But none of them really stick to the point where I say, nah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not always gonna be the case. Like, even as we've talked about many times on this episode, Earn Your Leisure.
Yeah.
They've said the story where at first they weren't with it, Earn Your Leisure.
Right.
Like, nah, I don't really like it. It doesn't roll off the tongue, like, it doesn't sound good.
Right.
Now, 1 million subscribers later and touring the world with their brand, it's a big deal. So, even if it's something that I may not per se like, if all of you guys like it, that's something I want to do as well, is collect all y'all contact information and do surveys.
Right.
We could even figure out how to do that. I'm sure there's some program or something like that where we could line up like 4 names, create a link, and then send it to each of you.
Right.
And y'all just fill in your contact information, click your choice, and then we get the list of what you guys chose as your option out of the whatever amount we choose. Yeah. The scenery of the podcast, even though I took a step up in terms of, Deli helped me with fixing up how this looks and the aesthetics of things. I purchased all this crap. One thing I saw, I told you too, was 19 Keys. Mm-hmm. He had mentioned, like, when it comes to podcasts, people are doing like anywhere from half hour to 2 hour podcasts plus.
Right.
And rappers or any artists in general spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions,
Right.
for a 3-minute music video.
Right.
To make sure your attention is there
Right,
for a
right.
3-minute video.
Right.
Why aren't podcasters doing that to capture your attention for an hour plus?
Right.
And that hit hard. That was facts.
Right.
Because we have people sitting here for an hour plus expecting them to go to YouTube. I don't want them coming and sitting here looking at us on a blank wall like how we started the podcast.
Right.
So again, like looking into investing into all of that. Any suggestions that you have? Is there something that you saw on another podcast that you like that maybe we could implement or implement a version of?
Right.
There's so much, man. Ideas maybe like of giveaways. I know we've talked about it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And we've done it. We just maybe have never really followed through with it.
Right.
Just stuff that you guys have liked throughout the time. We want to hear your input, and we'll take it into consideration for the project that we have coming in the new year. Now, the last part, I guess, of what I'm going to say about that is we also want to continue doing content, which means we want to hear from you. And I think that the episodes that we do until we've restructured the podcast and come back more serious, I want it to be where we talk to you guys live to air on the show.
Dope.
So if 30 of y'all reach out to us, there's 2 months left in the year?
Yeah.
If 30 of y'all reach out to us, or 40, right? Whatever math that is.
Yeah.
We have a number of people per episode. Let's say 4 or 5 people that we talk to each week about these changes live to air.
Right.
And then you could hear other people's ideas, bounce off of that, and suggest your own.
Yeah.
So at least we're still putting out content. If you guys are fans of the show, I'm sure you'll be interested in hearing other people's perspective on how they like the show, what they liked, what they disliked, and what they would like changed. So I feel like we could probably get at least 2 per week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have those conversations live to air. And even if you're not that type of person that wants to do that live to air, you're not the type of person that likes to get behind a microphone and talk or do a phone interview, so to speak.
Right.
You could always just leave us a lengthy WhatsApp voice note.
Right.
We could play that live to air. It could be to your content. Once you press send, it's good. Under your review, you'll think it's good.
Right.
We'll play it live to air and then talk about it live on the show.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably the best in terms of our next steps. Didn't mean to scare you guys that it was, but clickbait. Yeah, I did. But clickbait's a real thing, and we need to do that sometimes to get you to pay attention.
Right.
But anybody that is still listening, I'm sure you guys have some appreciation for the show and would like to help us get to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So that's that. It sucks, but it's just a small bump in the road.
Exactly.
I see big things for this, and like Farm P had said on the podcast, Big Up Farm P, he said this is gonna be one of the determining factors of media.
Right.
Or I can't even remember how he worded it. I'll probably just put in the clip here, but he said all that about what he sees the vision of this podcast being, and even him, we want him to be a aspect of media within this network as well.
Right.
So bigger things coming.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you guys for sticking around. 30 episodes. Again, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And before that, 150 episodes of Pre-Lime.
Right.
So it's a lot that we're doing to try and get to the next level. And again, it's a small bump in the road, but it'll be worth it. Yes. And once this is getting thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views, listens, plays, it's big.
Right.
Another thing, and I guess to close, another thing I heard about, or I heard that resonated with me. I think it was Gary Vee that said it. No, it was 19 Keys. One of the two. I was listening to their podcast, and they were just like, you guys, people out there, you've got to create media.
Right.
You've got to document your journey. Document your successes.
Right.
Because one day, who knows where you're going to end up. And they were just like, I think it was Gary Vee. He's like, I would love right now if Steve Jobs had a podcast,
right,
or just a YouTube vlog journey of how he started Facebook.
Right.
That is content for the next 50 years because of how successful he is. And that alone is just content based off of him documenting his journey.
Right.
So imagine what something like a podcast would be, where like you've documented your journey. People could go back and like, next thing you know, JKD is the next goddamn whoever.
Right.
And he has hundreds of episodes of this podcast that people could go back and listen to how he got to where he got to.
Right.
That's real content.
Yeah, man.
And, you know, you could repurpose that in many different ways. So
True.
Craziness. But we appreciate you guys for sticking around. And again, one more time, where can they find you?
JKD the DJ on Instagram.
Yep. And DJ_Busby on Instagram. And you guys could rewind for the numbers. I'm not trying.
You don't want to give
if you really want our number, you'll rewind. But otherwise, in the meantime, you know, follow us on the Instagram. That's where you can get the most updates.
Right.
We'll still be putting out mixes. We'll still be doing events. I got an appreciation event coming up, the last of 2022. There's a lot to be appreciative of.
Yes.
You know, and
exactly.
You have a couple events coming up for the balance of the year.
I do. I got Liberty on November 26th, and I'm doing a special No Name on December 26th.
Give it away. Some TV he stole. Some TV he stole.
No, bro, I didn't steal, bro.
Where you got that TV?
I bought it.
On top of garbage? Watch, people. I promise you, if you're on YouTube, look at the visuals that you're about to see. JKD stole this TV from somebody's food court, and he's giving it away at no name.
No, bro, not doing that. Why are you making me so cheap?
You what? I know you from time, huh? Don't play that. What's the other word for it? Frugal? Cheap ass. This guy.
I'm smart.
All right, y'all. We appreciate you. Just hit us up. We got a lot of big things coming, and we hope just to take this to another level so you guys can enjoy it even more. You know, the bigger we get, the bigger access to bigger people we get, the more conversations we can have, and the more we can change your life and ours all at the same time.
Facts.
Anyway, I'm not going to say this is the People's Podcast. Well, it is. Let's just say this is the sign off of another attempt at this project.
Yeah.
It's the People's Podcast, and it's the last one.
Right.
But we'll be back. And we'll have some powwows until then. But until then, we out.
For real.